Kumar has spent 32 years doing something that sounds simple and extraordinarily hard. Helping large, ambitious organizations become places where people genuinely thrive. At Hindalco, he leads HR for business with 55,000 employees across 30 plus manufacturing and mining locations.
To the challenge, but since he had placed his trust in me, and that inspired me that he's looking forward to something which is good for the organization, which is good for the country.
So Mohit, at Hindalco, you built a pool of 400 culture change agents across 55,000 person manufacturing organizations.
If you trust people, they live up to it actually.
Hey everyone, welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute World Council of Directors. I'm your host, Charu Mehra. Today's conversation is about one function in every organization that touches every single person and yet is the last to get a seat at the table until someone like today's guest walks in. Mr. Mohit Kumar has spent 32 years doing something that sounds simple and extraordinarily hard. Helping large, ambitious organizations become places where people genuinely thrive. At Hindalco, he leads HR for business with 55,000 employees across 30 plus manufacturing and mining locations. Before that, a decade shaping strategy at Idea Cellular through one of India's most disruptive telecom war. Before that, HR leadership at HP India. He is a Cornell CHRO Leadership Program alumnus, a certified ESG expert, and a certified independent director. So please welcome Mr. Mohit Kumar. Mohit, it's so wonderful to have you here. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much, Charu. Thanks for your kind words and looking forward to our conversation and sharing.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to having a great session with you today. What 30 years of HR leadership really looks like. So, Mohit, you've been a part of some of the most consequential moments in Indian corporate history, building HP India's HR through a major merger, navigating Idea Cellular through a decade of telecom disruptions, and now leading cultural transformation at one of India's largest manufacturing conglomerates. But here's what I'm curious about. Across all these organizations, all those thousands of people, what is the human moment you carry with you that no board presentation or strategy documentation could ever capture?
Oh, wonderful. I've been fortunate to be part of the India growth story, and I've been fortunate to work with great leaders. So, if you allow me, I'll just mention three moments, not one moment. The first moment that I had was with my HR director, whom I was reporting to way back in '98, and it was shortest induction that I ever had. That if I'm not reaching out to you, that means you're doing well. On the other hand, you can reach out to me anytime, right? And I follow through what I say. And he was the one who walked the talk. And that is what gave me confidence throughout. He lived that, right? That I can reach out to him anytime and he'll be absolutely responsive. And I'm doing well. That means he's not calling.
Wow.
The second moment that I had was I was reporting to CTO in ITC. He flew down from Kolkata to Bangalore, and in the flight, he wrote a paper. And then he gave it to me that, see, I'm not an HR person, you are an HR person. So can you please help me in building the capability planning and development model? I've just written some thoughts over it. He was a postdoctorate. First of all, to understand that paper, I had to refer to dictionary. And I had no clue about capability planning and development, but he had put his trust and faith in me, right? And that is what triggered me. That is what energized me to work day and night to look at the different places in Bangalore where this work was happening, to look at the different email groups where the work was happening globally, a different library. It was a library time. It was not an internet or a chat
Right.
time that time, right? So, and finally, I was able to, over a period of 3, 4 months, I was able to provide that capability planning and development model to the organization, which was appreciated by MD. So it is like the learning is, if you trust people, they live up to it actually. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
The third is in HP when I had gone to my boss, again the HR director, with some issues to discuss. And he listened to me and then he said that, Mohit, the problems don't get solved at the level of consciousness where they get created. And that was a defining moment for me, that pause, pause, uh, think through it, let it be. Uh, in the unmuddled water of thinking and feeling, solutions will emerge actually. So they are the defining
Right.
moments of great leadership interactions, great human interactions. I'm blessed that I had those moments.
Wow, wonderful. All these instances that you told us about surely puts a light on the way of the kind of leadership you must have had and how kind of leader that you are. So that's wonderful. And I really see that downsizing 6,000 people to 2,300 without breaking morale in HP and being appreciated by leadership globally for how it was done, that is not an HR achievement, that is a human achievement. And it sort of tells you something very specific about what separates the HR leaders who leave organizations better than they found them from those who simply execute instructions. So I would just like to say kudos on that wonderful journey that you've had so far. And thank you for sharing
Thank you
those
so much.
instances with
Thank
us.
you. It was a wonderful experience, one of the best, one of the most inspiring one that I lived through. And again, over here also, my country HR director he called me. I was handling the largest business unit in HP. He said, "This is
Yes,
what you have built, but there's something which I'm looking forward to you handling it, which is downsizing. Right? These are the people that we have hired over the years, and it is now
yes.
aggregating them from different places, verticals to a horizontal, and downsizing it. You have a choice. You have a choice to continue and bask in the glory of what you have created till now, or take up this challenge. I'll be happy if you take it up. And I'm giving it to you because I know that you can handle it responsibly and skillfully. It's a ram down, and that means your team will also ram down. It was a challenge, but since he had placed his trust in me, and that inspired me, that he's looking forward to something which is good for the organization, which is good for the
Right.
country's branding also, and he's trusting my young shoulders for that. I will live up to it. I lived up to it.
Absolutely. Just like the first instant you talked
Mhm.
about,
Yeah.
like if you put your trust in people, they will follow through. So
Yeah.
wonderful on that, Winsor, and thank you for sharing that with us. So Mohit, at Hindalco, you built a pool of 400 culture change agents across 55,000 person manufacturing organization. 400 people spread across 30 plus locations in mining and metals. That is not a culture program. That is sort of a movement. What made you believe that was even possible? And how do you actually change the culture of a place where the work is physically hard and the traditions run deep?
Rightly said. It's a quite diverse organization. The geographies are spread wide across remote areas. Businesses are different: mining, refineries, smelters, and market-facing
Right,
organizations. So culture change was organization leadership's ask, and I contributed my bit in that. We don't have only 400 now. Almost everybody is a culture change agent now, but it began way back uh, in 2017-18.
right,
And though it was envisaged by the top leadership, but on the other hand, that vision has to be bought into by the people. They need to believe in it from their heart. Right?
right,
That is where the HR role comes in, actually. That how do you get a place in their heart, right? Then they can authentically uh, communicate or take others along. It's a journey of many years, almost a decade,
absolutely.
actually. Yeah. And they need to be skilled with the change management. So this
Right,
initial 400 people, we had gone to different plants, called them over to Mumbai, engaged the facilitators from the quality organizations to equip them into change management skills. And that is where they went and did the change management across all the mining locations, across all the manufacturing locations throughout the country, learning from each other, creating that cohort, having that pride of being selected as a change catalyst, right? And the journey is on as of now. As I said, that it is not only a top-driven initiative; it's something that it's bottoms up as well.
Right, right.
It's like culture 365 days, culture change
Yes,
365 days.
yes.
So that's where
And it's an ongoing process, I think.
it's an ongoing process. There's always a
Yes,
next level journey, right? We've
yes.
traveled a journey, but if you're benchmarking with the best, then and or creating the best, then the journey is on.
Oh, wonderful. A movement inside the mining and metals company. That is such a vivid
Yeah,
and important image. Because I feel like when people think of culture change, they think of Silicon Valley offices and ping pong tables. But what you are talking about is changing how people think and lead in some of the most physically demanding workplaces in India. And I believe that is completely different and a um, you know, much harder thing to achieve.
yeah.
And you did that, and it's ongoing. So wonderful.
So if you allow me, I can share one experience from our mining culture transformation. So the
Please go
mines
ahead.
are spread uh, across, right? And there are people, 10 people here, 20 people there. So it was not one mining group as such, right? So there was a leader who came in and he made first of all the mining group, and then he closely engaged me that I want to transform this group. I want to elevate uh, the people capabilities, the cultural capabilities, and the deep work began in terms of engaging first of all what is needed and engaging the HR people, engaging the business people in evolving what is needed, then engaging the
Right.
work, including human process work, uh, building a model of the competencies needed for the cultural transformation. We call that Vishrup model, right? It was a
Oh, wow.
culmination of around 3 years of work, right? The human process labs continued even during the COVID period time, where he personally was part of those labs and where people discovered what makes them come alive, what kind of diminishes their energy, how they behave in front of authority, where they lose their assertiveness and originality, and how to handle their best in front of the
Right.
authority. Also, how to maintain relationships, how to develop relationships with the peers, with the authorities outside, with the seniors inside, and utilize that energy towards the organization transformation. It's a moment
Hmm.
of great pride that people who didn't have an identity spread all over, they came together as a group, and not only came together as a group, they became the role model for the rest of the organization
Wow.
in the culture transformation. So it's a very, very satisfying journey, and many other journeys
Absolutely.
like this in different parts.
Absolutely. And then I do believe that, the harder the challenge, the more satisfying the victory is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, that's wonderful. Okay, so Mohit, you have led HR through a merger at HP, through a decade of intense telecom disruption at Idea, and now through a massive structural transformation at Hindalco. Each of those required HR to do something very different. But there is a moment in every major transformation where people, not strategy, not process, become the critical variable. And
Absolutely.
what does that moment actually feel like from the inside the HR leader's chair?
Oh, wow. So all these transformations, once they begin, it's very hazy, right? Whatever success you had before in the career, that's of no use once you are into the new assignment. For example, if I take the
Right.
uh, assignment of HP, where the IT transformation, HR transformation had to happen, and where the
Mm-hmm.
downsizing was to happen. Now, whatever I had done in the organization or in the previous career was of no use, right? You are entering into the new business um, totally as a new entity. So, how do we
Right.
understand the different priorities of different stakeholders? How do we live through the initial setbacks? I remember
Right.
one incident where my India business director he came to me because there was a call, global call, where the HR, country HR was just told to follow what is being told, right?
Oh, okay.
And that is where I felt totally, have I made the right move? Right.
Right.
He came, stood next to me and just said, for you to change the game, you have to be in the game.
In the game.
Right? It
Wow.
was so empathetic, right? And that I'm standing by me, right? That is his that I'm there with you, right? And that is where together we began with the journey, and then the journey ended with that India HR is the best friend of the global HR and the global business, and the way they understand the business and the way they have done the transformation in India. That's a role model for the rest of the countries. The China visited, the Singapore visited, Germany visited to understand how the transformation has been done. But it was that moment. It was that moment of being in the game. You could have
Right.
the game, uh, and say over there, the purpose drives the resilience. It's not your personal ego. It's not your personal journey. It's a purpose journey which is
Purpose.
driving the resilience. That purpose is uh, people, purpose is business, purpose is country, right? So all that drove the resilience.
Wow, wonderful. And you know what? I believe that the easy thing is to sort of align with the business, but the valuable thing is to tell the truth about what the business is doing to its people.
Yeah, that's a continuous learning for an HR professional,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Uh, what to say and how to say. Ultimately, it's not about being right. It's about being effective, right?
Effective.
So, what to say and how to say, that's a continuous learning all throughout and the continuous balancing of,
Right,
yeah. But again, if you're
right.
purpose driven, values driven, you'll find the way.
Absolutely,
You figure out the
absolutely.
way.
Absolutely. And you know, 32 years of earning that seat at the table is sort of, I believe, what makes the conversation also possible, right?
Yeah, but I can tell you, Charu, that it's a continuous learning.
Absolutely. Mohit, to you is this. You are a certified ESG expert and a certified independent director, which means you sit at a fascinating intersection between the HR function and board governance. Now, ESG has a social dimension, how organizations treat their people, their communities, their supply chain, that HR leader understands more deeply than almost anyone else on the board. But what most boards are not yet having that conversation at the depth it deserves. What is missing here?
Oh, a very nice question. Great question. And when I did this course on ESG certification, I realized that many of these things we are doing, but it's a matter of bringing it to more awareness. As I mentioned to you that we are doing a culture journey for almost a decade.
Right,
Where's the impact of that journey? So typically we stop at the employees. Right? We did the survey which where we measure the impact of a culture journey not only on employees, also on customers, also on our vendors, also on the community that we interface with,
right,
also investors who are there, also the candidates who come and meet us, what is their experience, right? And is that experience fair, right? So, measuring the impact of the people practices and the culture on all the stakeholders, that is something that needs to go up the value chain to the board.
right, right,
And how do we maximize, how do we create even better experience for all the stakeholders? That is what the board is for, actually, right? So that's the insight that the ESG curriculum and the ESG deep dive gave me.
right.
Then you built it in your programs. Yeah, so that's how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe that ESG is sort of a cultural question and it is an important and underappreciated connection, because you can have the most sophisticated carbon accounting framework in the world, but still be in organizations where your people don't feel safe, don't feel appreciated, and heard. And I believe that that is the risk that will eventually show up in reputation or talent and in performance, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So that uh, understanding of the uh, people dimension, right? What's the real organization sentiment? Not
Right.
only organization sentiment, but the sentiment of the stakeholders around, whether it is really inclusive. Are we walking the talk, right?
Right.
And mm, are we respectful to the different stakeholders? Are we
Right.
sensitive to the needs, aspirations, and frustrations of different stakeholders? And
Right.
how fairly, transparently, and with authenticity we're addressing the issues and leveraging them towards the next level growth. That
Right.
perhaps will be the differentiator between a good organization and a great organization. Yeah.
Right, right. And with time it will show. I mean, these things don't get kept hidden. They will come up in one way or the other.
Absolutely, absolutely. Only thing is that these things have a the cause and effect are
Yes.
a little away in time actually. But on the other
Right.
hand, the role of leadership, the role of boards is to see that cause and effect relationship. It may be um, even so far away as 10 years or
Right.
5 years, that what you do today, what you decide today will have the impact
Fact.
5 years, 10 years down the line, right? So that's the role um that the board and the senior leadership would have.
And I guess this is where leaders like you come in picture, where you can sort of having that expertise in HR, and also being an independent director, you have that sort of view where you can look forward and see what kind of an impact that will have in the future and take
Yeah.
decisions accordingly.
So more
So,
awareness brings in more struggles also, and that requires that requires more skills to
right.
that require more skills to navigate in the right direction. It is not about winning quarter by quarter or
Right.
by year or winning during my tenure. It's about being conscious and being responsible towards the organization that you're going to create and leave to the next set of leaders,
Next.
next
Right.
generation of people actually.
Right. All right, Mohit. Quick
Yeah,
fire round. And given that you have spent 30 years thinking about people, organizations, and culture, these are going to be genuinely interesting. So, ready?
yep, ready?
Okay, so the first one is, I think I know this answer, but let's see. The best thing a CEO ever said to you, was it a compliment or a challenge?
Oh yeah. So I remember I was taking lunch when I was starting a joint venture for ITC. The MD came and sat next to me in the lunchroom. I was tired and exhausted by the labor of the creating a joint venture. And he asked me that who is running the organization, right? Now that's a great question to ask. No, the
Yeah.
expectation is that you are running the organization. Though I said that no, I don't know who's running the organization, but on the then expectation was that you have been put there in the joint venture, so you are running the organization. It was empathetic also in a way, and also it was a challenge. So who is running the
Right,
organization? That you are being trusted to carry out the parent organization's agenda in the joint venture, and
joint
he
venture.
is personally invested in that. So these are small moments which shows the faith that is
Right.
put in you, and then you live up to it.
Okay, next one is culture. Built from top down or grown from the bottom up?
It's both ways. It's interactive. While the agenda gets driven from the top, but on the other hand, communication, feedback, what is working well, what is not working well, it's interactive process.
Wow, that's a wonderful answer there. Third one is the HR practice that most organizations think is working, but almost never actually is. One answer.
Succession planning.
Ah. Okay, the next one is a high performing team with low morale or a happy team with average performance. Which keeps you up at night more?
Both will keep me awake in the night, but I'll be losing even long hours of sleep with the first one. That is because that is where the values.
High performance, low morale.
Aha. So that will be because the with the team which is happy, you can always lift the game on the task dimension.
Right,
Difficult on the other side.
right. Wow, wonderful. Okay. Last one is one word that 30 years of building organizations and the people inside them leaves you with.
Honesty and transparency wins every game.
Wow. One. So, Mohit, here's a scenario. Because in your world, governance failures are not about numbers. They're about people leaving or staying, but disengaging, or a culture quietly collapsing under pressure. Imagine a large organization through a significant restructuring. The business case is sound, the board approves it, but nobody invests adequately in human transition. 12 months later, the best people have left, the middle is exhausted, and the culture the organization spent years building has effectively reset to zero. The board asks what went wrong. What is your answer? And what does that tell us about the most expensive mistake boards make about people?
Yeah. So whose story is it actually? Is it the story of one or two persons, or is it the story of the larger organization? Right. Where it becomes the story of the larger organization, that is where that means we have uh, done the engagement right. We have distributed the ownership of that, and we've also celebrated transparently and honestly the victories actually, right?
Mhm.
Uh, so when it is uh, belief is deep rooted, the ownership of the culture and people transformation is deep rooted. When we are walking the talk at all the levels, when we are open to the feedback of what is working well, what is needs to shift to the next level of effectiveness, that is where the story will be everybody's story actually, right?
Right,
Uh, and culture and values go together. Cultural values and purpose go together, right? So this has to be a complete symbiotic relationship of culture, values, purpose, people performance, business performance. It is not mutually exclusive. It is mutually elevating actually. So when
right,
we able to see that and have the uh, heart to share with the larger organization, that is where the success happens, and that is where the role of the board will be that how authentic the story is actually, right?
right, right. Right. And then I also believe that, a business case is only half the case when the boards approve restructuring without approving the human transition plan. So it's also about, having a full strategy here, right?
It's a massive risk that if we continue to live in that era where only the investments are being looked into and not the
Yes,
people leadership, not the transitions, not the capability, not the succession. It's a huge risk because if we're not investing in that, we are building
yes,
insecurities by design. We
agreed.
are building not so good practices by design, right? Because if we're not taking care of the first, it is by design leading to
Absolutely.
something which is not desirable, actually.
Right, right. And the other half is what happens to people who are supposed to execute it. And when that half is missing, the whole thing unravels.
Yeah, and as I said, it's a symbiotic relationship. If the people part is not taken care of, it has an impact on the business part. It is a
Absolutely.
symbiotic relationship.
Absolutely. So, yeah, because people are the ones running it. They are doing the job. So
Yeah,
that is, I guess, one of the most important things that needs to be looked at.
absolutely.
Okay, that was so. Last question for this session is Mohit, that you are a valued member of Directors Institute World Council of Directors. So,
Thank you.
from your personal experience, what has being part of Directors Institute meant to you, and how has that governance and boardroom perspective, shaped the way you think about HR leadership?
Oh, fantastic question. And I must tell you that it has been a fantastic experience for me, right? I could have completed the course in 3 months' time also. I took a good amount of time to complete the course. Why? Because it was addressing building a muscle which was not there with me actually, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Though I was doing it subconsciously, unconsciously, but on the other hand, uh, it was not consciously there as my strong muscle.
Right.
So learning about what happens in the boards, learning about what governance is, learning about where it is going, learning about interdependence of the national governance and the international governance,
Okay.
learning about where the ESG agenda is
Wow.
going, and what's the impact of that on different stakeholders, including investments, right? So that was a great learning insight. The case studies in the course material, the regular weekend interactions, and the best part was the practicing board members and the authority on the board leadership. The interaction with them where they didn't discuss theory, they discuss the practical examples in
Examples.
different boardrooms
Wow.
as per their real life experiences, right? Uh, how the boardroom stewardship and coaching that HR people bring in uh, are kind of the skills needed for successful board stewardship, right? So that was a great experience learning from the peers in the different industries, right?
Industry.
Nationally, internationally. That event in Pune, where you met hundreds of people over there, right, who are the budding independent directors going to lead the boards of boards in the country and internationally, and the continuous evolution of Directors Institute in terms of beginning with one course and then taking the agenda to the international level, authorities from the country, authorities from the um, APAC region, and authorities from different parts of the world.
Right.
A great learning experience. So thank you for that exposure.
Wow, that's a wonderful feedback right there. So thank you for that, Mohit. And that was a really meaningful and reflection. What strikes me is that you sort of bring something to the board conversations that is genuinely rare. Someone who has spent 32 years inside the organizations that boards govern, seeing exactly what the decisions are at the top to do with people at level below, and that perspective is very valuable and it is also essential. So thank you for that, and I wish you all the best for your future endeavors.
Well, thank you so much, Charu. This was a wonderful conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, Mohit. This has been a genuinely warm and important conversation. And thank you for your honesty, your warmth, and the 32 years of building organizations that are genuinely better because you were in them.
So
To
nice of
all,
you. Thank you.
you
Thank you
know,
so much for the kind words. I know it makes my day.
all well deserved, Mohit. To our listeners, whether you are a CEO, a board director, an HR professional, a business leader navigating a difficult transformation, or simply someone who believes that organizations can and should be places where people genuinely flourish, today's message is this: people strategy is not a support function, it is the strategy. The organizations that win sustainably are those whose board treat talent, culture, and human capital with the same rigor, the same governance discipline, and the same long-term commitment they bring to their financial capital. Mr. Mohit Kumar has spent 32 years proving that, and the organization's fortunate enough to have them had in the room for stronger for it. This has been FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm your host, Charu Mehra. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay ahead. Thank you.